Hi, I need to clarify something. I know you're fine because there is someone who takes care of you, whether or not you know. Now, what is that thing I want to clarify? Some time ago, I made a video, and that video was about dating, relationship, and whether a lady can ask a guy out. And then after that video, somebody close to me reached out asking me if dating was a godly stuff or a Christian thing. To understand if you must ask a guy out, have to also admit that it's not an African culture. It's not our thing in Africa. It's unethical. But because of civilization, because of immigration, because of mixing up of cultures, we have started doing so many things we thought we couldn't do before now. And one of them is asking a guy out as a lady. If you're going to do that, you must make sure, number one, that you define the motive. Why am I asking this person out? You have to be sure of what you are out for, and you have to make sure that it's a harmless one. It might be ridiculous to leave out the fact that a lot of ladies ask some guys out with very awkward motives. Always make sure that your motive is pure and direct. Be sure of what you want. Be sure of what that outing or date is all about. Is that clear? The second thing you might need to consider is to plan the set of activities that will be going on in that date. You have to be sure of the set of activities you have outlined for that date. And you know, it's not going to revolve around ladies. You need to understand that you're asking a guy out, you're moving out with a guy. You're not going to be doing things that will not be interesting to that guy, like follow me to the salon, and the guy will go and sit down there like he's the only guy in that salon and all those kind of things. You understand? It will be boring and embarrassing. Like, she brought me out just to take me to a salon. Make sure it's not to go to your tailor to collect a cut. And make sure it's not to go to one of your girlfriend's place to gossip. And make sure it's not for a fight. Some people just say, follow me to somewhere, and they are just going to do a fight, whether it's indirect or direct fights. Maybe like they want to prove a point, they want to show somebody I have a guy or something, they just want to blush, make sure it's not any of those motives. You have to define the set of activities and make sure it's something a guy would like to engage in. Remember the first one, you have to define your motive. Secondly, you have to determine the set of activities that will be going on, or plan those set of activities to be such that if you call that person again, he would want to follow you out on a date. The third thing you might need to consider is that you need to have your own money. Of course, yes, you have to have your own money. You cannot be planning in someone's pocket, especially when you're asking the person out. The guy did not plan the date. He did not plan an outing. But as I was saying, make sure you're not planning in that guy's pockets. Make sure that you are loaded in cash as to be able to take care of the activities that will be involved in that outing, like your transportation if you're not driving, like refreshments, like any unforeseen contingency and all that. Please make sure you have your own money, you planned the activity, you foot the bills. Except maybe the guy is trying to be a gentleman and decides that you take that he takes the bills, you don't put it on him. Somebody will say this woman is funny. Yes, I'm just being honest with you. I'm just being honest with you. That is also because you want to be addressed. You don't want to be perceived as an opportunistic fellow. You have to help to protect yourself too and make the person think very nicely of you. Yeah. Then you have to also retain your femininity. Yeah. Very difficult for a lot of ladies to do these days. What I mean, retain your femininity. You're actually the one taking the person out. You don't have to throw it on his face. Like, I brought you here, I'm footing your bills. You know, it just gets saucy. Femininity is gentle. Femininity is bold. Femininity is articulate. Femininity is decisive. You have to maintain your femininity. You don't, when I mean femininity, I mean you have to, first of all, show that I'm a disciplined human being. I'm not just a flex. That I asked you out doesn't mean that I want to take advantage of you or I have ulterior motive. You have to also show that you are responsible. Like, I'm femme, you understand? But I am feminine. I'm you know, there's this feminine behavior that would want a guy to be with you. You have to retain your femininity. You don't have to be hard. You don't have to, okay, let me put it this way. You have to be like difficult to get, easy to live with. When I mean difficult to get, like you're not a cheap flirt. Even as I am out with you, I know my values, I know where you cannot take advantage of me, I know what I want. Difficult to get, but easy to live with. You're also not going to do like you're bossy, you are saucy, you are what have you, such that the guy inside him will be saying, who does she think she is? After this, I don't think I can go into this. There are many reasons for a date. Number one, it might just be to enjoy somebody's company. Number two, it might just be to get that person. Maybe you've been friends for a long time, or just get that person, get a little bit committed, or there are results you are expecting. Make sure you are very articulate about them and not to defeat the purpose. For some people, they might want to be getting out a proposal from that outing, but you don't say it. It's from how you carry yourself that you know whether you will get the results. And don't expect to have those results right away from that date. They're just building enablers, just putting the steps. Do you understand me? So you have to retain your femininity. You have to be responsible. Retain your femininity. You have to be decisive. You know what you want. Then you know that vulnerability, the feminine charm. I'm built for this and that and that and that. You understand? So that is very important for you to know. I'm built to suit or complement your kind. Together we become complete, or like, have to also retain your femininity. The next thing you might need to also do is to decide the duration and try not to exceed it. Decide the duration of that date. If I'm going out with you, make up your mind and say it's going to be for 1 hour, it's going to be for 30 minutes, it's going to be for 20 minutes, and all the likes. You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah. Don't exceed it significantly. That is, this date is to last for 4 hours, and when it's time, do not exceed it significantly. Maybe the person is saying, I want you to stay a little more, I'm enjoying this company, let's stay a little more. Don't be so hard to reject that offer, but don't also exceed the limit significantly. Maybe an extra 30 minutes to do, to also show that you are not selfish and that you consider that person too as having choices. Remember, decide the duration of that outing. Now, I want you to also know that you have to let your activities be what you can do with a guy. Let it be what you can do with a guy. It could be sporting activities, it could be driving, it could be anything that a guy will enjoy doing. Then position yourself to have a dream or vision and not clueless, jobless, or wasteful. Don't be manipulative or dishonest. Just be honest. But you have to show that you have a life. Don't be manipulative. Some females are a little bit empty. You have to show that you have something upstairs. Position yourself like you have a dream, like you are pursuing something, not like you are empty. And the person is like, what does she think life is? What does she even have? Is there any sense in her or brain? I just don't know. Position yourself as somebody that is pursuing something. And you have your dream, you have steps to achieving your dreams, like you're going somewhere, and that person won't be thinking like he's going to fall into a ditch with you. This is a little we can take for now. Remember, I'm making some food. We will continue next time. Just ask me any question you want, and we will talk about it. But he kept telling me that Christianity is a lifestyle, and I told him that Christians date, but they don't call it dating. And I'm going to clarify on what I mean. The word Christians use is majorly courtship. And courtship is a period between the time you have agreed to be together as couples and the time you seal up that agreement by way of vows, and you get legal backing to move on that life journey. Whereas dating is a word that has been used to depict people of shared interests getting along or having time for the purpose of their shared interests. Say Christians date, it will look like the regular or the secular idea of trying one person or the other. And when we use that word, it puts our mind straight to relationship, usually between male and female. And while it's a forbidden term in most Christian settings, is because of the idea of trial and error, trying to check out this person, check out the other person, whether they are the word we use in these days, spec, whether they are your spec. I don't know how we got to that issue of spec. Well, if I don't use that word, I would use what most people deem much more respectful, whether you can get along. And I think this phrase, getting along, is much more encompassing than just a spec. A spec is miniature, is reducing, is something limiting in the sense that it only puts that aspect of physical appearance to the fore, like the shape, the color, that's visible attributes or features that has mainly to do with structures. Like when young people look at each other and they say, "It's my spec," probably the person has six packs, big hips, and maybe fair in complexion, dark in complexion, tall, high, all those physical attributes in someone that make them say, "Oh, that one is my spec." But when we say getting along, it will mean both what the eye can see and what you will get to discover as you interact. Now, over time and since ages, Christians do not just pay attention to the area of specism, if there's a word like that, but I'm going to use it, spec, because it removes your attention from the main issues, the main points, important aspects of values, and much more important areas about godliness. While the word dating is becoming much more rampant, is because people have started relaxing some importance placed on some issues. What are those importance or things that were held there? A male is not expected to be seen in serious ways with a female if they don't have anything serious going on between them, because they say you cannot keep yam with a goat and expect that the goat will not feed on the yam. They say there is something God has put in both gender that makes them attract, that you don't predispose them to the temptation to explore each other. Now, when I told the person that Christians actually date, but they don't call it dating, is why. When you pick up someone and start courting them, it means you have known them somehow. Yes. While we don't use dating in Christian settings, is because you are not expected to just go randomly into the streets and just pick someone and say, "Let me start courting the person," because at the stage of courting, you have gotten to that point where you say, "We are getting married. We are taking it to the next level." You don't meet someone today and say you are courting. Except if that particular day, both of you had a serious talk and you want to get along, marry. So I've seen relationships that lasted just 1 week, 2 weeks before marriage. In that instance, those people met, maybe circumstances brought them together, and they feel that, we share values together, we can risk it, let's get married. And it's not, those are rare cases, and they go along by faith and it works for them. That is because they are privy to the background of each other, or they can see visibly that both have some things in common, and they have strong ties in terms of belief and ways of doing things. Otherwise, that's a big risk to take. So for believers who pick up someone, it means that either they've been worshiping in the same congregation, not necessarily the same location. They have the same belief pattern. they have the same value system. They can say, I can vouch for this person based on what we have been taught, what we have been exposed to, the life we live, our identity as Christians. And I'm not talking about churchgoers. I'm talking about believers, people who have been nurturing themselves in the knowledge of God, in the things of God, and are keeping to the standards of Christianity. In that case, they can just say, we are courting. There are many ways believers or Christians use to decide who to court. In that case, we talk about knowing the will of God in marriage. They would have prayed, seek the face of God. They would have, that's a different topic where we begin to talk about how to know the will of God in marriage, who to marry. But that's not the topic. Like I told you earlier, I'm trying to clear something about the word dating and the word courting and whether it is allowable in the Christendom. Now, they would have something in common, probably prayed, and maybe read the word of God, and have strong belief that God is speaking to them through certain verses of the scriptures. Yes, because sometimes they come very strong scriptures to you, confirming what you have been feeling, like the directions the Holy Spirit has been leading you, and or it's been laid in your heart by way of intuition, by way of words, confirmatory words by the Holy Spirit. There are many ways. We will explore them with time, but having explored those ways and you are sure that this is a journey you want to go into, you are going to approach the person or go through the method by which the congregation you find yourself does it, and then are launched into a process of courtship where both of you are now sure that yes, we want to go on this journey, and you start courting. You already know that our mission is to end up together, our mission is to get married, and then you start doing the courtship process, a process in which you learn a lot about each other, though under guided circumstances, careful, still under the leading of God and the coverage of what you believe in God. It's not a time that both of you feel like you're married, and you, because within courtship too, you can decide to not go ahead. You can decide to make certain changes. That is why that time is also a period of carefulness. You learn a lot, learn about each other's families, learn about their health, learn about what they do, plan your life, the number of kids you want to have, a lot of things you want to do together, where you want to live, how you want your love life to look like, inspire each other spiritually, improve your prayer life, improve other secular areas. Is a serious period of time where both people are to respect each other and respect their belief system. It's not a time to begin exploring each other or being selfish. So that is what the believers, the Christians, and the Christendom knows. A time of separation, sanctity, and serious development of the first stages of your togetherness as a couple. Whereas dating is a situation where people kind of sample. In this discussion, sampling will be used as a synonym to dating. Some people will not believe me, but that's exactly what happens during dating. That is why it's a controversy whether believers should accept that word or not, because they are trying to see if it works. And most believers have argued that it's not even a thing to toy with people's emotions. Why it is easier to say that Christians court is because somehow they've known each other, but they have been dating somehow. If you go by the definition of what I told you dating is, where I said that it is a situation where people get along because of shared interests. So believers and churchgoers or Christians in the Christendom get along somehow. Maybe they do worship together, they do some other Christian activities together that make them have knowledge of each other to some extent. Something has been bringing them together, though not officially dating. I don't know if you understand what I mean. You, to some extent, can say, I have known this person. The issue of the will of God in marriage could date as far back as Bible days, when some people in the Bible were looking for wives for their sons. Times have changed. Cultures have mixed. People have migrated. Learning has increased. So many things are happening that we will begin to look at these things critically and redefine them. So when that's my lovely brother got angry with me by asking me if dating was a believer's thing, I was trying to make him see reasons why I said the things I said. Because in that video, the question was if a lady can date a guy. This my video now is very spontaneous because I was just cleaning my house and the thoughts came into me again. So I quickly took up my camera to talk on it. It's not something I have really sat down to develop, but I'm just talking as a layman. So in that video, I was like, if you are going to ask a guy out as a lady, there are certain things you don't do. I said, make sure that what you are going to do is defined. Your reasons are clear. Why you invited the person to move out with you. Yeah. And I said it doesn't have to be with a sinister purpose, because I know that these days, several things can bring a male and female together. But when you talk about the word dating, what goes to mind straight away is relationship between male and female. Then there are many things I said there. I also said you have to make sure you have your own money. You plan the dates, you foot the bills. If you're not driving, ensure that you take up your transportation cost. If there is need for a refreshment, make sure you foot the bill, except the guy wants to be a gentleman and decide to opt in. And then I also talked about the set of activities that will happen there, whether it's something a guy would love to do. So you see, these days, unlike the days these things started, things bring people together, for which they are going to be male or female in a space together alone. So it's important to know what is bringing you together and how to conduct yourself in such circumstances. So will you now say because we are believers? There are also believers in Christian settings where they decide to go out together. In some settings, dating is allowed. Trying it, let's check out whether it's going to work. Why that is not an acceptable term in Christianity or method in Christianity is because you are not expected to do certain things by yourself alone. You're supposed to trust God to run every aspect of your life, to direct you, allow the Spirit of God in you direct you, and not to be instrumental to whatever you are doing, because it can backfire. Because when you begin to see everything with the eyes of the flesh, you don't know all. We are not saying that there have not been people who got directed that have issues. Yes, it's not perfect. Even when God leads you, you have a work to do. And if you don't do your part of the building, it's going to be prone to failure. Why we also don't allow such patterns is that it predisposes you to certain temptations and then heightened and dashed hopes. In as much as the world is trying to be so liberal to the point that they want to feel like men and women are the same, there is a whole lot of difference. Everything in relationship for women have certain level of emotions. Emotions are involved. It might not be exactly the same for the men. So most times, most of the actions they take look superficial. There are reasons for that and why God made it that way. That's not the topic for this discussion. So when you start up like that, one party in that relationship is going to feel like this is it. And when you opt out, there might be attending consequences, things you cannot manage. Enmity can come. There are a whole lot of issues that come from that method. While people feel like it's a or more acceptable way is because of the issues we are seeing in marriages in recent times. But then it boils down to fulfilling your part as laid down by God, and fulfilling your part as laid down by a woke culture, a woke generation, and a liberal mindset that is now questioning every principle of God and even causing more heartbreaks